On the 5th anniversary of John Smith's passing, the weather turned gloomy, and a torrential downpour began outside the window. Emily Johnson listened to the pattering rain, feeling overwhelmed.
Serious, what are you thinking about, so absent-minded?
Mocking, Michael Anderson, I'm wondering when you'll finally be gone.
Emily's face showed a trace of embarrassment along with a mocking smile.
Angry, what? Your little lover has been gone for 5 years, and you're still thinking about him?
Shouting, yes, I miss him a lot.
Emily's suppressed emotions erupted, filling her dark eyes with immense hatred.
Coldly,
Thinking of John Smith, who had been in a tragic state 5 years ago, Emily began to tremble.
Shouting, Michael Anderson, I despise you.
And she despised herself even more. John Smith was gone, and Michael had imprisoned her.
angry, shut up.
Michael's eyes were filled with raging anger. He lowered his head, trying to see through the person in front of him.
Serious, Emily, it seems I've been too good to you lately, so much so that you've forgotten your place.
5 years had passed since John Smith's death, but he was still deeply etched in Emily's heart.
Mocking, yes, brother. Please tell me, what is my place? Your maid? Lover? Or your pet?
At 9 years old, she was brought to the Anderson family by Vivian Adams, who renamed her Emily Johnson. Her task was to accompany Michael Anderson, calling him brother. At 18, she met John Smith, who protected her in the orphanage. Young love blossomed, and she would sneak out to meet him. Their relationship was discovered by Michael, who flew into a rage, smashing everything in the house. Michael began to forbid her from leaving the house. Later, she tried to escape, planning to leave with John Smith one night. It was a painful night. She lost her innocence meant for her beloved and lost the person she loved the most.
Angry, Emily, don't let me hear the word brother again.
Defiant, bro.
Before Emily could finish, her mouth was covered by his.
Cruel, don't defy me again, or else.
His eyes narrowed dangerously as he reached for his phone.
Serious, your sister Sophia Chen's oxygen mask in the hospital could be turned off at any moment.
Shouting, you.
Seeing Michael so nonchalantly making a call during their confrontation, Emily's heart sank. She slapped the phone out of his hand.
Angry, Michael Anderson, you're despicable.
Emily stopped struggling, lying there like a lifeless fish, letting him do as he pleased. Until she passed out. Emily developed a high fever in the middle of the night, and Michael, looking panicked, called for the family doctor. It wasn't until the middle of the night that her fever gradually subsided. Emily's frustration grew as she saw Michael nonchalantly making a call during their confrontation. She slapped the phone out of his hand.
Michael Anderson, you're despicable.
She stopped struggling, lying there like a lifeless fish, letting him do as he pleased. Until she passed out. Emily developed a high fever in the middle of the night. Michael, looking panicked, called for the family doctor. It wasn't until the middle of the night that her fever gradually subsided. In the hospital, Emily gazed at her sister Sophia, lying silently with an oxygen mask on. Sophia had been in this state for 3 years. 16 years ago, their family went bankrupt. Their father passed away, and their mother, unable to cope, followed him. Emily and Sophia ended up in an orphanage. Sophia was adopted, and Emily, after joining the Anderson family, relentlessly searched for her sister with Michael's help. 3 years ago, they found Sophia, abandoned and unresponsive.
Sophia, if only I had kept you then and not let anyone adopt you. It's all my fault for not taking good care of you.
Her eyes reddened with guilt and sorrow. The sun set outside the window as she gently tucked Sophia in.
Sophia, it's getting late. I have to go now. I'll come to see you another day.
Emily wandered aimlessly through the streets. By the time she returned to the villa, it was already 8 p.m. The living room lights were off, but there was a flickering light from the sofa.
Where have you been? Why are you back so late?
In the darkness, Emily sneered.
Your fiancé is here. Shouldn't I, the unseen lover, give you two some private space?
Michael irritably stubbed out his cigarette and stepped closer, grabbing her chin.
Emily, don't push me.
You shouldn't push me either, brother.
I've told you, Emily, don't let me hear the word brother again. Disobedience will be punished.
He ruthlessly pinned her down and tore at her clothes, anger surging within him.
Let go of me, Michael. This is the living room.
Emily, it's your own disobedience.
Ignoring her struggles, he forcefully claimed her, wanting her to understand she was his woman forever.
It hurts.
She clutched his suit, crying out in pain, her nails digging deep into her palms.
Has anyone ever told you, Michael, that you're a bastard?
The next morning, Anna came over again, insisting that Emily accompany her shopping.
Emily, you're coming with me today. No excuses.
But I don't want to go.
Despite her protests, Emily was forcibly taken along. Emily played the role of Anna's little follower, trailing behind and carrying all sorts of things for her. Feeling a bit bored, Emily stood outside waiting when she suddenly saw a familiar figure. She quickly put down the shopping bags and chased after it.
John! Is that you, John?
She pushed through the crowd desperately but still lost sight of him. Feeling overwhelmed, she stood amidst the bustling crowd, clutching her head in distress.
Emily.
A familiar voice sounded in her ear. She looked up in a daze, seeing John in front of her. Her gaze fell on his prosthetic right leg, and tears streamed uncontrollably from her eyes.
John, your leg.
Emily, I'm fine. I've gotten used to it over the years. Don't worry about me. How have you been?
Not good at all, John. I always thought you.
Recalling the past, a hint of hatred flashed across John's face.
Back then, Michael's men caught me and hurt my leg. I escaped with all my might and met my savior on the run. I've been in the U.S. ever since.
Emily swallowed her bitter words, her mind racing.
John, once I settle my sister, I'll go to the U.S. with you. We'll leave here together, and I'll take care of you for the rest of my life.
She knew she was slowly developing feelings for Michael. She couldn't stay in the Anderson household any longer.
Emily, there's something I didn't want to tell you, but I think you have the right to know.
What?
It's about your parents. When I was in the U.S.
When Emily stumbled back to the villa, Michael and Anna were having dinner in the dining room.
Stop.
She seemed not to hear him, stepping up the stairs in her high heels. Michael's right hand clenched slightly as he suddenly stood up and strode upstairs.
Anna watched his back, took out her phone, and made a call.
How did it go? Did you tell her? Did she suspect anything?
Don't worry. She'll believe anything I say.
Besides, she already harbors resentment towards Michael because of me.
Good. Help me marry Michael, and I'll help you get Emily out.
All right.
Emily slammed the door shut when she returned to her room, her hands trembling as she recalled John's words. A sudden knock on the door startled her.
Emily, open the door.
She sneered inwardly. What difference did it make if she opened the door or not? He would always find a way in. She hid a pair of scissors under the bedding. Sure enough, the next moment, the door clicked open from the outside.
Emily, are you deaf?
He had heard from Anna that Emily had run out, frantically calling John Smith's name, and he was itching to punish her severely.
Yes, Michael, you would love it if I were deaf and blind.
What nonsense are you talking about?
She slowly retreated and fell onto the bed.
Michael, you caused my father's death.
Michael was slightly taken aback, a hint of hesitation flashing in his deep eyes.
Emily, what are you talking about? How could I have caused your father's death?
Her father had perished under mysterious circumstances when she was 9.
Actually, your father didn't perish by his own hand back then. Your mother didn't abandon you and your sister either. They were trying to fake their deaths to escape from their creditors and planned to come back for you once things settled down. When you were 18, they found you and wanted to take you away from the Andersons, but Michael's intense possessiveness. He caused your parents' deaths. I've been investigating this secretly for years. Emily, come to America with me.
Michael frowned and pinned her to the bed.
Emily, who told you these lies, making you think I caused your father's death?
Emily's father had perished under mysterious circumstances when she was 8. How could he have caused his death?
You're still denying it?
Emily looked at his handsome face. She hated him, but her feelings for him were complicated. He denied causing her father's death, but how could she believe him? After all, he had once tried to harm John Smith. If it weren't for John's luck, he would be in a cold, dark place now.
I'm asking you a question.
She snapped out of her daze, her right hand reaching under the blanket to touch the handle of the scissors, her palm cold. With trembling hands, she pulled out the scissors and stabbed at him fiercely, gritting her teeth.
Michael, go to a dark place! Go to a dark place!
She had told him countless times to leave, but she had never thought of actually doing it herself. This time, however, the hatred that had built up in her heart exploded, and she couldn't hold back any longer. As she moved, a sudden pang of guilt struck her heart, causing her to hesitate. Because of this hesitation, Michael slightly shifted, and the sharp scissors stabbed into his shoulder.
Slap. How dare you hurt Michael?
Emily clutched her face, her eyes red.
Stop!
He was wearing a white shirt, with a blood-stained bandage on his right shoulder, walking step by step downstairs. Behind him was Jessica.
Michael, how could Emily do such a thing to you? She...
Say another word and get out.
Anna shut her mouth, glaring hatefully at Emily. She couldn't understand what was so special about Emily that even after hurting him, he still protected her.
Come with me.
Michael.
I'm fine, don't worry.
He walked upstairs. Emily looked at the bleeding wound on his shoulder, feeling an inexplicable pain in her heart. She bit her lip and followed him. In the dark, lightless room, Michael stood in front of the large floor-to-ceiling window, looking out into the pitch-black night.
Michael, please let me go.
Did you really want to end me today?
But I didn't. I had the chance, didn't I?
Emily, do you have a heart?
A heart? My heart died 5 years ago.
Your heart died? Isn't John still alive and well? How could your heart have died?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't know what I'm talking about? John is back. He even went to the hospital to try to take Sophia away.
Michael stepped forward and grabbed her neck forcefully, his face full of anger. Emily's neck hurt from his grip, and she couldn't breathe, her face turning red. Seeing her like this, he finally let go. When he learned from his assistant that John was still alive, he was furious at being deceived all those years ago. But what made him even angrier was that after all these years, she still hadn't forgotten him. She had even planned to escape with him. And with just a few words of provocation, she had tried to harm him and even acted on it.
Michael, what did you do? What did you do to John?
What I do depends on how you behave. If you make me unhappy, he might spend the rest of his life in bed.
No, Michael, no, I'll do anything you want, just don't hurt him.
She bit her lip hard. John had already lost a leg because of her. How could she let him lose another?
From today on, you are not allowed to leave the villa.
Michael left, and Emily stood by the window, feeling a chill. Michael's almost obsessive possessiveness was just to keep her by his side as his pet, his lover. This time, she only hoped that John would be safe. Michael received a call and hurried downstairs, striding out of the villa. Jessica quickly followed.
Michael, where are you going?
Emily's heart sank as Michael nonchalantly made a call during their confrontation. She slapped the phone out of his hand, gritting her teeth.
Michael Anderson, you're despicable.
Emily stopped struggling, lying there like a lifeless fish, letting him do as he pleased until she passed out. In the middle of the night, Emily developed a high fever, and Michael, looking panicked, called for the family doctor. It wasn't until the middle of the night that her fever gradually subsided.
Emily, I'm here to take you away. Come with me.
How do we leave?
There's a forest below this window. I just climbed up using the trees. It's only the second floor, not too high. I'll go down first, and then you jump down. I'll catch you.
But.
No buts. Emily, Sophia is safe now. I've arranged for her to be transferred to the US where she can get better treatment. She might recover soon. I disagreed when you said you wanted to come back for your things. Now that I've finally found a chance to come, you need to leave with me. Sophia is waiting for you in the US.
All right.
Michael's phone suddenly rang. He answered it.
Sir, Miss is missing.
What did you say?
Michael and Jessica hurried back to the villa. Anna was sitting on the couch in the living room, wiping her tears with a napkin from the coffee table.
Michael, it's all my fault. If I hadn't dozed off in the room and had kept an eye on Emily, she wouldn't have run away.
Michael ignored her, turning to look for Mrs. Brown.
Are you all blind? How could you lose a living person?
Sir, my son had a fever in the middle of the night. I rushed to take him to the hospital. When I came back, Miss was gone. I didn't mean to.
Anna walked over to Michael.
Michael, maybe Emily just wanted to go out for some air. She might be upset about her ex-boyfriend. She'll come back once she sorts things out. Don't worry about her.
Shut up! Get out!
Anna was startled and took a few steps back. He clenched his fists tightly. John Smith wasn't dead. What was there for Emily to be sad about? Although his men had tracked John Smith's whereabouts, someone seemed to be helping him, and he hadn't been able to catch him yet. The things he had told Emily before were lies, but now that she had disappeared, there were only two possibilities. The first was that she had run away on her own. The second was that John Smith had used external help to take Emily away secretly. Either scenario drove him mad. What was wrong with him that made her always want to escape from him? His eyes turned red with fury, and he swept everything off the coffee table. The servants trembled in fear, not daring to make a sound.
Get out! All of you, get out!
Jessica Clark knew he was losing control of his emotions and quickly shouted.
Everyone, leave!
The servants, relieved, hurriedly left the living room.
Michael, are you okay? I'm really worried about you.
You should leave.
Anna hesitated for a moment but then turned and left. She couldn't understand what was so special about that wretched woman Emily that made Michael so fond of her.
Michael, calm down. Emily must have had help to disappear like that. She couldn't have vanished on her own in front of so many people.
He knew better than anyone how important Emily was to Michael. She was the only one who had been kind to him after he developed autism, and she had left an indelible mark on his heart. Michael closed his eyes in pain and dialed his assistant David Miller's number.
Find out where Emily is right now.
Yes.
And what's the situation with John Smith?
Hearing John Smith's name, Michael's expression darkened.
Speaking of which, I need your help with something.
What is it?
John Smith took Sophia away. The medication she needs is quite rare. Help me find out who else might need those drugs recently.
All right.
The next morning. Knock, knock, knock. There was a series of knocks on the door.
What is it?
Boss, Mr. Clark says he found something.
Downstairs, Jessica was waiting, looking somewhat troubled.
Regarding what you asked me to investigate, I pulled some strings and found out quickly. John Smith is still in the country, staying at the Four Seasons Hotel in Sea City. He knows I found him, and he wants to see you. Otherwise, he will. He hesitated.
He will what?
He will harm Sophia, and then blame it all on you. Emily will believe him, not you.
Michael's sharp eyes narrowed. It seemed that the person who had sown discord by saying he killed Emily's father was undoubtedly John Smith.
He survived back then because of his luck. The Four Seasons Hotel? I'll go meet him.
He knew how important Sophia was to Emily and couldn't let John Smith harm her.
Michael, you shouldn't go. Just have someone capture him.
He might really harm Sophia.
Seeing that Michael wasn't listening, Jessica became agitated.
But if you go, what if he hurts you? Your arm is already injured. He's not the same powerless John Smith he used to be. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to take Sophia right under your nose. After what you did to him back then, he might harm you.
Jessica, I have to go, not just for Sophia.
What do you mean?
If my instincts are correct, the person behind John Smith is targeting the Anderson family.
The Four Seasons Hotel was over 3 hours away from Michael's villa. By the time Michael rushed to the hotel, it was already past 3 in the afternoon. He and Jessica entered the hotel and went up to the 5th floor.
Something feels off.
Michael's face darkened, and he suddenly turned to look at Jessica.
Damn it!
He rushed to room 503, but it was empty and eerily quiet.
Have we been tricked?
Emily had escaped the villa with John Smith and arrived at the airport. As they were about to go through security, Emily hesitated.
Emily, don't hesitate. We need to go now, or we'll miss the flight. Sophia is waiting for you in the U.S.
Emily looked back reluctantly, then gritted her teeth and went through security. After a long flight, they arrived in the U.S., and John Smith took her to a car. Emily felt exhausted, unsure if she felt relieved or melancholic.
Emily, now that we're in the U.S., we can start a new life together.
She forced a smile and nodded, remembering that John Smith had said he had arranged for Sophia to be there.
What about my sister?
We just got here today. Emily, you should rest for a day. I'll take you to see Sophia tomorrow.
Emily hesitated for a moment, thinking that John Smith, with his limited mobility, had already gone through a lot to bring her here. He should rest too. She nodded. He took her to a villa in B City. Emily looked around, feeling a sense of unreality.
John, this villa.
This villa is mine. I prepared it especially for you. Emily, I promised you that when I had the means, I would give you a good life. The house is decorated in your favorite style. Everything here is arranged according to your preferences.
John noticed she had stopped walking and turned to look at her.
Emily, what's wrong?
John wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder, his voice tender.
Emily, do you like all this? Let's forget the past and start over, okay? I can give you a good life here.
John's embrace made her feel a bit uncomfortable. She pulled away and turned to look at him.
John, I don't think I deserve you. You have so much going for you now, you can definitely find someone better.
John's face darkened slightly, a shadow of gloom in his eyes. He laughed self-deprecatingly.
So much going for me? I lost a leg. How is that having good prospects? Emily, are you disgusted by me?
No.
John smiled bitterly.
Then why are you telling me to find someone else?
I'll take good care of you. Your leg is like this because of me, but I don't deserve you. You know Michael.
Mentioning his name made her breath catch. It had been almost a day since she left Michael's villa, and she wondered if he knew she had run away.
I don't care. Emily, I know you didn't willingly stay with Michael. I don't care about any of that, I really don't.
He hugged her tightly, almost desperately. Seeing John in such a state of desperation, Emily felt torn.
John, let me think about it, okay?
John released her, his expression unreadable.
Fine, Emily, you're tired today. Get some rest, and we'll talk about this tomorrow.
Emily nodded absent-mindedly. He gave her a long, heavy look before turning and leaving. Downstairs, John pulled out his phone and dialed a number.
Hello, Mr. Thompson, I've brought Emily to the U.S. Yes, she's in one of my other villas now. Good, but please don't forget your promise. I want everything the Anderson family has.
According to the tracker in Emily's body, she's currently in this villa in B City, USA. I had someone investigate and confirm that this villa belongs to John Smith.
Have you found out what happened to him in recent years?
5 years ago, he was injured and escaped, saved by Robert Thompson. Over the years, he's been helping Robert with some financial activities. Robert has been quite generous to him, sharing the profits.
Is there any way to catch him red-handed?
Maybe with more time, but right now, it's quite difficult.
Leave this to David Miller, he's more skilled in this area. We need to book tickets to the USA immediately.
Are you going to find Emily?
Of course.
John Smith won't let Emily be in danger. If you go there, won't it?
Like you said, John Smith is not the same person he used to be. No matter what, I have to go personally.
Michael's eyes darkened. Emily had left with John Smith, so she must have gone willingly. That damned woman, she left without any hesitation to follow another man.
Michael, it seems like you've fallen for her. Don't you plan to marry her?
Marry her? Marry Emily? It sounds appealing, but now is not the time to discuss this. We need to go to the USA immediately.
All right.
Jessica and Michael flew to the USA overnight, arriving during the daytime. They hurried to the villa they had previously investigated. The next morning, Emily got up for breakfast, ready to go to the hospital with John. Just as they were about to leave, John's phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the caller ID and then at Emily.
Emily, wait here for a moment. I need to take this call.
Go ahead, John.
John walked a bit further away with his phone and answered the call.
Didn't I tell you not to call me these days?
What? Now that you've taken Emily, you talk to me like this?
No, Anna, is there something you need? Hurry up, I'm about to take her to the hospital to see her sister Sophia.
I just wanted to remind you that Michael seems to have gone to the US by now. He might have already found your villa. Keep Emily hidden, I don't want to see her back.
John's hand holding the phone paused slightly.
Got it.
He hung up and walked back to Emily.
Is something wrong? If you're busy, you can just give me the address, and I'll go by myself.
John's eyes darkened as he looked at her.
Emily, we might have to wait until tomorrow to visit your sister.
Why?
I have some things to take care of, and you're not familiar with this place since you just arrived in the US. I don't feel comfortable letting you go alone. Stay in the villa with me today, okay?
Emily hesitated. She wanted to check on Sophia's safety and see if she was adapting to the medical equipment here. She wouldn't feel at ease without seeing her.
I can go by myself, or you can find someone to accompany me.
I don't feel comfortable.
After a moment of hesitation, Emily nodded.
Then let's go tomorrow.
John took Emily back to the room and had the servants bring in many books.
You can listen to music and read in the room. No matter what you hear outside, don't come out.
Emily found his instructions a bit strange but nodded after a moment of hesitation. John left the room, closing the door behind him. Michael and Emily faced each other in the dimly lit room, the air thick with tension.
You, her voice trembled as she slapped the phone out of Michael's hand. Michael Anderson, you're despicable.
Emily stopped struggling, lying there like a lifeless fish, letting him have his way. Until she passed out. In the middle of the night, Emily developed a high fever. Michael, looking panicked, called for the family doctor. It wasn't until the middle of the night that her fever gradually subsided.
You, narrator, seeing Michael so nonchalantly making a call during their confrontation, Emily's heart sank. Emily, shouting Michael Anderson, you're despicable. Narrator, she slapped the phone out of his hand, gritting her teeth.
Emily stopped struggling, lying there like a lifeless fish, letting him do as he pleased. until she passed out. Emily developed a high fever in the middle of the night, and Michael, looking panicked, called for the family doctor. It wasn't until the middle of the night that her fever gradually subsided. Emily turned her head and saw Michael walking out of the villa. Against the light, she looked at his face and felt a pang of discomfort in her heart.
Don't come any closer! John suddenly grabbed Emily by the neck and pulled out a knife, pressing it against her throat.
John, you.
You better not move.
Emily looked at him, feeling something inside her collapse completely in that moment.
This is the John you couldn't let go of, the one who, at a critical moment, would use your life to threaten me.
Let me go, or I'll do it.
Having faced life and death, he cherished his life the most. At this moment, nothing was more important to him than his own life. The bodyguards surrounding him showed no intention of letting him go without Michael's command. John, feeling scared, pressed the knife closer to Emily's neck. The knife cut into her white neck, drawing a thin line of blood.
Let him go.
The bodyguards in black slowly made way. John loosened his grip slightly and dragged Emily towards the outside. Emily's neck hurt, but her heart hurt even more.
John, you've changed.
We've both faced life and death. So what if I've changed? Emily, you owe me this.
So, you came back to find me, brought me here from home, just to use me?
That's right.
Why?
Because you owe me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be like this today. And you're so shameless. Even though you knew Michael was responsible for what happened to me, you still stayed with him. You say you love me, but your love is so fake. You love me, yet you stay with Michael, your brother, every day.
Emily's face turned pale. She had thought that even if the whole world couldn't understand her, John would. But today, his words pierced her heart.
Is that how worthless I am to you?
You're just shameless. I was blind to have loved someone like you.
In his first year recovering in the States, Robert often showed him photos of Emily and Michael together. During that time, his love for her had turned entirely into hatred. She was a shameless woman, claiming to love him while being with Michael, who had caused his downfall. Emily bit her lip, unable to speak. She closed her eyes, holding back her tears. It turned out she had been a complete fool all along. John led Emily to a nearby river, with Michael and his bodyguards following closely behind. The knife in John's hand pressed a bit deeper. Seeing the bodyguards closing in, John knew he couldn't linger.
Michael, you want me to release Emily? Fine, but you must agree to one condition.
Michael looked at the wound on Emily's neck, with blood seeping out, and felt a sharp pain in his heart.
What condition?
You come over here. Trade yourself for her. And tell your men not to follow us. I'll take you away.
No.
John had completely changed. He even hated her, let alone Michael, who had once wronged him.
You say you hate him, yet you still protect him. What, afraid I'll harm your lover?
Michael met Emily's tearful eyes, his breath unsteady.
Fine, I agree. I'll trade myself for Emily.
No way. Michael, you can't go.
Stop wasting time. If you're going to trade, come over here now.
Trade.
Michael raised his hands and walked step by step towards John, who watched him warily. Emily bit her lip, hesitating for a few seconds. Taking advantage of John's distraction, she bit his arm. John, in pain, instinctively let go. She quickly ran towards Michael. Seeing this, John kicked her, causing her to fall to the ground unprepared. Seeing Michael's men rushing over, John knew he didn't have time to grab Emily. He turned and ran to the river, jumping into the water and quickly disappearing beneath the surface.
Emily, are you okay?
I'm fine.
He escaped. He seems to know the water well. He disappeared instantly.
Since he came here, he must have been prepared. Let him run. He can't hide forever.
Emily was taken to Michael's villa in the United States. Jessica checked her wounds.
Fortunately, the wounds aren't deep. Just apply some medicine and she'll be fine.
Michael stood nearby, his deep gaze sweeping over Emily. Seeing her lifeless and defeated look, he spoke.
You take care of her wounds. I'll step out for a bit.
Sure, leave this small task to me. You go handle your business.
Michael gave Emily a long look before turning and leaving. After he left, Jessica clicked her tongue and spoke.
Emily, I actually don't like you much. If Michael didn't care about you, I wouldn't bother treating your wounds.
Emily's eyes were empty, and she didn't respond.
Honestly, you're just asking for trouble. Michael treats you so well, yet you insist on leaving. Now look at you, seeing John Smith's true colors. Maybe this is a good thing for you, a kind of growth.
Michael treats me well?
Emily suddenly responded, her voice ethereal.
Whatever he says, I have to do. He imprisons me, forbids me from getting close to anyone. Everything I do has to revolve around him. No freedom at all. So, this is him treating me well?
Jessica paused, the cotton swab in her hand stopping mid-air. He didn't really know the dynamics between Michael and Emily. He knew of Emily's existence and had met her a few times, but Michael's possessiveness left him little chance to get to know her better. But he knew Michael treated Emily exceptionally well. When dining out with friends, if he saw something delicious, he would order an extra portion to be sent to Emily. If he saw anything cute or pretty that Emily might like, he would buy it and have it delivered to her. In his mind, Emily was always treated like a princess by Michael.
You didn't know about all this, did you?
Jessica's expression grew complicated. He put down the cotton swab.
Emily, no matter what, Michael's love for you is real. And after all these years, do you really have no feelings for him at all?
Feelings? I'd rather not have such feelings. She looked at him, speaking each word clearly. Jessica, I'm a person, not a toy.
Emily, there are many things about Michael that you don't know. Maybe if you knew, you might forgive him a little.
Emily paused slightly. If there was anything she didn't know about Michael, it was his life before he turned 13.
When Michael was 13, something happened.
With a click, the door handle turned, and Michael walked in from outside.
How's the wound treatment going?
What, don't you trust your good buddy? Of course, it's done. I'm just here to keep an eye on her for you. Now that you're here, I'll leave you two to talk.
With that, he strode out. Michael stared at the bandage on Emily's neck, feeling a pang in his heart. His eyes darkened, and he asked hoarsely.
Does the wound still hurt?
Emily thought about what Jessica had just whispered in her ear.
That year, Michael was in great pain, witnessing his parents' violent fights, wishing they could kill each other. All of this was clearly their fault, but Vivian blamed everything on Michael, beating him and even trying to harm him. Michael was lucky to escape that day. Later, Mr. Anderson passed away, and Vivian returned to normal, but Michael developed a condition. You were the only one he slowly began to trust during his isolation. He treats you differently. Your companionship made him feel happy and content, so he forcibly kept you by his side. Vivian is actually very selfish. She only loves herself. Even though her actions indirectly hurt Michael, she never put in the effort to stay by his side. Maybe you see Michael as cold-hearted, but he actually values old relationships and craves affection. He remembers the good times with Vivian and has never blamed her all these years.
Her eyes grew slightly moist. She hadn't known Michael had gone through so much. Now, hearing these things from Jessica, she felt a pang of sympathy for him. Seeing her teary eyes, Michael frowned and approached.
What's wrong? Does the wound still hurt?
She looked at him, opened her mouth, and couldn't help but ask.
Did you really not harm my father?
Since John Smith had told her about this, it had been a knot in her heart. Even though she had seen John Smith's true colors and knew he might have lied about everything, she still wanted to hear Michael's explanation.
I've told you, I never harmed your father. I don't know what John Smith told you, but your father indeed passed away when you were 8.
I'm sorry, Michael. I wrongly accused you before.
She couldn't control her tears, feeling extremely oppressed. It turned out that the person she once thought was good was the one who truly hurt her. John Smith, in his madness to frame Michael, had even tried to harm Sophia. Seeing her in such distress, Michael felt a pang in his heart.
Can you leave for a while? I need some peace.
Michael nodded and turned to leave.
On stairs, Jessica was waiting for him.
So, did you two have a good talk?
Did you say something to her?
I didn't say anything.
Michael's sharp, deep gaze fixed on her.
All right, let's not talk about you and Emily. What about Robert Thompson? How did you handle him?
Hearing Robert's name, Michael's eyes darkened.
He tried to acquire our company domestically, but my people have him under control.
I knew it! You always have a way to deal with him. Oh, I forgot to tell you, John Smith went to Robert's place and was also captured by our people.
Once Emily's wounds are better, we'll return home.
2 days later, they boarded a plane back home. When Michael brought Emily back to the villa, Anna was eagerly waiting for him, based on what her father had told her. Emily should have been gone by now. She hadn't dared to contact her father these past 2 days, fearing Michael would find out. She only knew that once Michael returned, she could discuss marriage with him. With Emily gone, he would marry her and eventually fall in love with her. Thinking of this, she felt a burst of joy. But when she saw Emily, her face was full of shock.
You!
What? You didn't expect me to come back safe and sound, did you?
I didn't.
Anna's face turned pale, and she glanced cautiously at Michael beside her.
What do you mean?
Michael, I don't care if you still want to marry her, but I must say, she is very likely in cahoots with John Smith.
You are slandering me.
Whether it's slander, you know in your heart.
How could it be a coincidence that she met John Smith while taking her out shopping, and it was also her who returned the phone and told her about John Smith taking Sophia? Everything pointed to the fact that she had some connection with John Smith. Michael glanced at Emily. He walked slowly to Anna's side, his eyes narrowing.
Either tell the truth, or try my methods.
Anna's face turned ashen, and her body went limp, collapsing to the ground. Emily's heart sank as she saw Michael nonchalantly making a call during their confrontation. She slapped the phone out of his hand, gritting her teeth.
Michael Anderson, you're despicable.
Emily stopped struggling, lying there like a lifeless fish, letting him do as he pleased. Until she passed out. Emily developed a high fever in the middle of the night. Michael, looking panicked, called for the family doctor. It wasn't until the middle of the night that her fever gradually subsided. During lunch, Michael returned to the villa. Seeing Emily in the dining room, he raised an eyebrow and walked over.
What, have you come to your senses?
Emily silently finished the vegetable porridge in her bowl. She looked up at Michael, feeling exhausted.
Michael, let me go.
Michael's gaze darkened as he looked at her. He recalled the words Jessica had said to him.
It's been so long, and I can see it clearly now. You must love Emily. The obsession in your heart, or the things you've experienced in the past, make you unsure of how to interact with her. No matter what, she is an independent person. Some of your actions towards her have indeed been excessive. Confinement is not love. She has endured so much over the years, it's not easy. Michael, as your good friend, I advise you to think it over and try to make some changes for her.
His fingers twitched slightly.
What if I give you freedom?
Emily was stunned, a bit taken aback.
What did you say?
I'll give you freedom, but you stay with me.
Emily smiled bitterly.
I don't want to continue this kind of relationship.
She had to admit that she had developed feelings for Michael, but her dignity wouldn't allow her to stay by his side like this. Michael took out a heart-shaped velvet box from his pocket, walked up to her, and knelt on one knee, his deep eyes looking at her with affection.
Emily, marry me.
Emily looked at him in shock, her blood rushing. She had never thought that Michael would propose to her.
I know I've done many excessive things in the past. I'll try my best to change. I'll also give you freedom and won't control or confine you like before. Emily, marry me, okay?
Emily covered her mouth, unable to speak for a long time. Suddenly, there was a noise. Jessica pushed the door open, holding a large bouquet of fiery red roses.
Come on, how can a proposal be without flowers?
Mrs. Brown and a group of maids also ran in cheerfully, coaxing.
Say yes, say yes.
Emily was moved to tears. After several choked attempts, she finally said,
Okay.
3 months later, Michael and Emily held their wedding in Westwood. Jessica brought her girlfriend to attend the wedding. Michael wore a white suit, looking both handsome and pure, with a faint smile on his face.
Jessica.
Jessica patted his shoulder.
Michael, you must be happy.
Everyone will be happy.
In the distance, Emily, dressed in a white wedding gown, looked as beautiful as an angel descended to earth. She smiled brightly and waved at Michael.
Michael.
And with that, they started their new life together.
The end.